signal detected. Tag designated.
This is UNSC Pelican Echo 216. Can you hear me? This is UNSC.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about what was arguably the most important story detail revealed in the latest Infinite trailer, or I should technically say opening cutscene. The destruction of Zeta Halo. Now, I think it goes without saying that this is going to be pretty huge when it comes to Infinite's story. I mean, this Halo has been teased in Halo 5's ending, and now the entire marketing campaign so far for Infinite has focused on this ring, and now we're seeing that it's been destroyed. That clearly means something important. Now, before we start to talk about what could have caused this, let's look at some incredibly sneaky details that have actually been hinting at the destruction of Zeta Halo since as far back as possibly 2016. Now, the latest hints came from the original Infinite trailer, where you can see that in both instances of us seeing these stone rings, they're destroyed, but they're not destroyed in any way. They have a small chunk missing, just like Zeta Halo does. Now, to start talking about what story implications these stone rings might have is honestly kind of pointless because we don't know anything about them, and we probably won't do until the game comes out, but I think it's quite easy to tell that 343 were heavily hinting at Zeta Halo being destroyed as far back as last year. But like I said, that isn't the earliest hint that we had. I actually noticed this a few days ago, and I've not seen anybody talking about it, which kind of shocked me because it was literally staring us right in the face. So if we go back to late 2016, Halo Fractures was released, which was a book that was just full of loads of small stories from loads of different eras of the Halo universe. But the cover art of it is what is important. The cover art shows the Isodidact way back during the Fallen Flood War, looking at Zeta Halo through a cracked viewport in his ship. Now, look at that crack. Tell me that was not quite possibly hinting at the destruction of Zeta Halo. Now, to me, that crack is way too perfectly placed for this to be a coincidence, but I don't know, it was 2016, it was a long time ago, maybe it was a coincidence. Either way, it's pretty interesting nonetheless. Honestly, if it ends up being as big of a plot point in Infinite's story as I'm pretty sure it's gonna be, then it really won't shock me if it was being hinted at as far back as that. And to back this up, Frankie the other day on Twitter was saying that the conversation as to how the Halo ring was destroyed will be a fun conversation post-launch, and that its destruction is meaningful, which is very interesting. So it's very clearly happened for a reason. There's a reason that the ring is destroyed, aside from just pure shock value. And if you were to ask me, I'd say that the ring being destroyed is quite symptomatic of the UNSC being defeated. I mean, the ring being destroyed literally gets revealed as the pilot says, "We lost," so I think that there's definitely some symbolism there. But anyways, talking about why the ring was destroyed is a conversation that we can't really have until the game launches. I mean, Frankie himself even said that it'll be a fun conversation to have after launch, so in the meantime, in the year and a half meantime, we can discuss how, in fact, Zeta Halo was damaged, and to do so, I have two theories. The first being ejection. Now, in Halo Wars 2, we saw that for the first time ever, I think, Halo rings are separated into loads of little segments that can be controlled and modified and played with in a control room. Now, in Halo Wars 2, we saw Professor Anders actually lift one of these segments off the ground, out the foundation of the Halo, and into space from a control room. And furthermore, we saw a pretty similar thing happen to Gamma Halo in Halo Escalation, where Master Chief gave the monitor the index and then allowed it to literally eject the portion of the ring that contained the control room. So, based on the fact that Installation 03 and Installation 09 are both segmented like this, we can assume that the rest of the Halo array are as well. Now, with this knowledge, we can make some pretty interesting observations in Halo Infinite's cover art. Now, as you can see in the background in front of Chief, there's clearly some sections of the Halo ring or something floating in the background. And these segments that are floating look awfully similar in shape and size, based on at least what little we can see, to the section that Anders yeeted into space in Halo Wars 2. So maybe these segments are replacements for the ones that were launched into space during the war on Zeta Halo. But the main question that we've got to ask ourselves when it comes to evaluating whether or not ejection really was the cause for the damage to Zeta Halo, we've got to ask ourselves, why would a part of the ring be ejected? Well, if you ask me, I could honestly see either sides of the war doing it. I could see the UNSC ejecting a section of the ring, maybe a library with the index hidden in it, for example, to stop Cortana from getting the index, as a form of asset denial, or alternatively, I could even see Cortana ejecting part of the ring to stop humanity from reaching a key location, like, for example, the control room, or maybe even a domain node or connection or something on the ring that's giving her access to it. Maybe she ejected part of that so humanity couldn't get to it. This one's a long shot, but maybe there's a Composer's Forge somewhere on Zeta Halo that Cortana was using to create more Composers so she could digitize humans and forcefully add them to her ranks, or maybe there's a Composer's Abyss somewhere that she was using to harvest souls from to create more Prometheans, and maybe either this Composer's Abyss or Forge was what she ejected from the ring to stop humanity from getting to it and destroying it, or alternatively, maybe the UNSC ejected it so she couldn't use it anymore. It's a pretty big long shot, but at this point, with how little we know, it can't hurt to speculate. There is one thing that we do know for sure though. One of the, I think, probably 2 humans alive right now that knows that Halo Ring segments can actually be ejected is Professor Anders, and given the ending of Halo Wars 2, it kind of seems that she's been captured or at least guarded by Cortana. So maybe Cortana had Anders eject part of the ring for her, or alternatively, maybe the UNSC recaptured her and she did it for them. Either way though, she's one of, I think, only 2 humans alive, aside from Master Chief, who knows that segments of rings can indeed be ejected. However, I'm not all that sold on this damage being caused by ejection, because when a ring piece is ejected, it's a pretty clean cut. It seems like in Halo Wars 2, the piece kind of just slides out quite neatly. Whereas in the trailer, it's very clear that this damage was not caused by a clean cut. It looks more like something, I don't know, impacted it or exploded and caused the debris to fly everywhere. And this leads nicely into my next theory. And this theory is destruction, which I think is pretty obvious. Now, the ring could have been destroyed for any number of reasons, some similar to what we just discussed, asset denial. But what's the one thing that just so happens to be missing from the trailer that is the only thing at the UNSC's disposal that could even dream of doing that much damage to a Halo ring? That's right, the UNSC Infinity. The Infinity is absolutely nowhere to be seen or mentioned in the trailer at all, despite it being the UNSC's flagship and arguably the only beacon of hope in this dark era of the galaxy. When you combine the fact that Zeta Halo is destroyed, the Infinity is missing, and that the pilot says, "We lost everything," I don't know, that to me seems like the Infinity may have possibly destroyed itself to destroy Zeta Halo. But how exactly would the Infinity do that? Well, at the start of Halo 4 Spartan Ops, we watched it literally plow directly through an RCS-class cruiser without even damaging itself, and that cruiser is 1 kilometer wide. And so, maybe the Infinity just plowed straight through Zeta Halo. Well, probably not. The 1 kilometer width of an RCS cruiser is one thing, but if the Infinity were to hit the surface of a Halo ring dead on, it'd have to go through 22 kilometers of Foreigner metal to do that, which I think is pretty unlikely, despite how powerful the Infinity is. However, maybe the impact of the Infinity hitting the ring isn't what damaged it. Maybe the damage was caused by something similar to Combat Evolved. So, in Halo CE, Chief destroys Alpha Halo by detonating the fusion reactors of the Pillar of Autumn, and given how much bigger and how much more powerful the Infinity is than the Autumn, I'd hazard a guess that if it were to plow straight into the ring, and its fusion reactors, or equivalent, were to detonate, it'd cause an explosion more than big enough to rip a hole of that size in Zeta Halo. Now, if this were to be the case, not only would it provide the perfect explanation for the Infinity's absence in the trailer, but it would also address a fairly popular complaint with 343's take on the UNSC. People have complained for a few years now, I'm one of them personally, that 343 have made the UNSC a bit too powerful in the post-war era, and the Infinity is sort of the symbol of this extreme power, and if the Infinity were to be destroyed, that would be a massive thematic change and would take the UNSC and the Allies way back to the original trilogy where they were absolutely on the back foot. And I mean, if the trailer's anything to go by, clearly we lost the war, so clearly we are on the back foot, which is a theme that people have really been missing in the past few years. Alternatively, maybe the Infinity just ran away again, like at the end of Halo 5, and maybe instead this damage to Zeta Halo was caused by a Guardian. Now, considering how important the Guardians are to this entire story arc, we actually don't know that much about them. We know that they were used by the foreigners to police weaker species on their planets, and that they essentially have a big EMP that can affect roughly half a planet, and a few small laser defenses as well, and as far as we know, that's kind of it. Maybe they actually do have some proper offensive capability that caused the damage to Zeta Halo, or alternatively, maybe the Infinity either shot down a Guardian, causing it to crash on the ring and severely damage it, or maybe the Infinity even plowed directly into a Guardian and did the exact same thing. As you can tell, I'm quite a big fan of any theory that has the Infinity just plowing into anything. Despite my thoughts on, like, post-war UNSC, that scene with the Infinity just plowing directly through the cruiser was really, really badass, and I'd love to see the Infinity actually go down doing something similar, sacrificing itself for the greater good. And honestly, the Infinity going down isn't exactly a new concept. It's something that 343 have sort of subtly toyed with since, like, pre-Halo 5, and honestly, if it were to go down in Halo Infinite, I would love to see it go down in like a blaze of glory to try and save Chief or humanity or something. Although, clearly, if it has gone down, it's done so before Halo Infinite's opening cutscene, so hopefully we get some sort of story primer cutscene before that opening cutscene that details like the war on Zeta Halo and how the ring was damaged and what happened to the Infinity and what happened to Chief and why he's floating in space and all that good stuff. I really hope that we do get that. And so, they are my theories as to why I think Zeta Halo has suffered severe damage in Halo Infinite. Whatever the reason ends up being, it's clearly going to be something very important and very meaningful, going off what Frankie said, so we've just got to wait probably another 16 to 18 months. Don't you worry though, this is the last dry period that we're going to have to go through, and I mean the end is in sight, and between now and then we're almost guaranteed to get more news and information, so it's not going to be anywhere near as bad as the last couple of years. Just know though that the only way to survive this dry period is to stick around and subscribe to HiddenXperia. And so, with that, I'm going to end the video. I want to give a big thank you to Reagan Sink for the new Primordial pledge over on Patreon, as well as, of course, all my other patron boys over there too. And thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.